So speaking of the profit system that infinitely reduces us in this quantified endless reduction where we chip away at each other forever. I'm curious to ask you this, Jeff, because it's something I kind of struggle to articulate because it like pulsates with this malevolent electrical intensity of complexity and insanity of this whole basically how the money system works today with the fractional reserve banking and how all that came to be and how the Federal Reserve, like I was talking to somebody the other day about all this stuff and they just kept asking like wait what is the Federal Reserve? What is that? And I just had to keep describing it like it was this Lovecraftian like cult that lives underground and like pulls demons up out of the ground and puts them into coins and things like that. It's so dark and scary and weird. And I would love if you could help elucidate just how illusory this sort of system is, how made up it is.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time sort of going down the rabbit hole of the Federal Reserve, and that was a fun, good time. But the story of the Federal Reserve would go further back, I would say, than 1913. But I think 1913 is a good starting point, just because at that particular moment when the Federal Reserve Act was passed. Interesting about that Federal Reserve Act when it first came into existence in 1913, it got passed on December 23rd, which was, most people that were in Congress when they were getting ready to vote on it actually weren't.
Sorry about that there. Sorry about that. I accidentally muted you when I was trying to unmute myself.
Oh, okay.
I apologize.
He wants me to shut up right now. So,
like, no, we don't talk about that. Sorry, go ahead. My bad.
We don't want to get Kennedy'd on this show. We don't want to talk about the Federal Reserve too much.
That's right.
A bullet is just going to whiz through all of our windows.
That's right, simultaneously.
Well, what I tell my students is that the Federal Reserve is neither federal nor does it have any reserves, right? And if you read on their website, they say they are independent within the government, which is an interesting way to think about how they perceive themselves. Because the monetary policy that Federal Reserve chairmen get to make, they don't have to have approval from anybody in the government.
It's like unaccountable, basically, also. I don't think they really answer to anybody either.
No, they don't. The only thing that happens is that the chairman of the Federal Reserve Board is elected by the president. The president picks them. And that's the part that gets them sort of like connected to the government. But the rest of that monetary policy is completely independent from whatever is going on politically. Like they can make decisions on interest rates and how much they're loaning out. And they literally sit in a room in a round table. It sounds really silly. It sounds like very conspiratorial, but they literally sit at a round table and decide interest rates. They basically decide how expensive money is in the world, which controls quite a bit. It sounds like a fiction novel. It does. I mean, the way it's all set up sounds like a fiction novel, but it actually is quite true. But I don't know where you want me to start with it. I mean, the Federal Reserve is such a weird entity, but essentially they have this magic wand where they can create money out of thin air. They create it through loans, which means they create it through debt. And the fascinating part about that is if you have a money system where every single dollar that's created has an equal amount of debt attached to it, then any discussion of paying debts off literally means removing money from society. And that isn't even accounting for any interest that may be added to pay back any debts that they say that you need to pay back from these loans. So if you add interest on top of that, that means there's always going to be more debt than money. Meaning if you have an entire society based on a monetary system that has more debt than money, bankruptcies are inevitable, right? So it's literally an elaborate game of musical chairs where we're all competing with each other over a scarce resource, money, which is a fictitious commodity, doesn't even exist in our physical reality, for which there isn't enough to go around for everybody. It's manufactured mathematically that way, but it keeps people showing up to work and being so busy with their lives they can't think about how all this stuff works. So it is a massive form of social control. And it was like that. It was designed that way from its very beginning.
In this completely disjointed, disconnected, competitive world, we are unified under the use of money. That all societies all over the world, just about, unless there's some uncontacted, isolated tribe that will shoot you with arrows if you try to come close and bring your, your monetary germ. We are all we're unified under this this metric. We're unified in it. It's completely dominated the entire earth. I would say without firing a shot, but as we all know, many shots have been fired to maintain this, that it was not voluntary. It was not, they didn't give people a choice. You can continue doing society the way you do, or you can use our money. It was like, no, you have to use this. You have to do this. And it's this absolutely, honestly, ingenious control mechanism where people will control themselves. They will compete with each other for this scarce, made-up resource, this little token, this thing that doesn't really mean anything. It doesn't have any use or value. You can't eat it. You can't, make things with it. It's just basically a power token, a control token. And we're completely dominated by it everywhere, all over the world. It is super malevolent.